Hi, internet friends. Oh, I've been busy. It is the 22nd of January, 2019. It's 1:32 p.m. I got up early, 6 a.m. For a change, I want to talk about the Jesuit Pope. I was wrong. The Jesuits do run everything. They are framing poor Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a freaking saint, and the Jesuits are running everything and framing the Jews, and it's just outrageous. Who knew? I didn't know. I've just got some information. Pope Francis made billions of dollars out of taxing tobacco products in Italy, in Rome. Money from taxing, of course, the wine industry in Rome. You didn't know about that. Luxury apartments. Considered he wasn't just handling the money, he was benefiting greatly from it. The Pope, of course, caught with his $30,000 Brugate. How do you pronounce it? Is it a Swiss? Is it a Swiss company? Anyway, it's a US $30,000 Swiss type watch, Brugate. It's a famous watch brand. And I mean, the guy is just disgraceful. And I'm shocked that a religious leader would be involved in taxing tobacco and alcohol. In fact, they call him the Tobacco Pope. Did you realize that was his nickname? So, anyway, you're right. It's all about the Vatican and the Jesuits and the Black Pope, Green Pope, Brown Pope, Purple People Eater Pope. And of course, the one big failing of the Jesuits was they forgot to get control of the media. Yes, they even frame the Jews, Jewish power, by putting you in jail and ruining your life. Locking up for years for questioning Holocaust history. For locking up and protecting Jews in that manner, refusing to allow people to examine basic historical facts and figures. That is a cunning plot by the Jesuits to put the heat on the Jews, Jewish power. Of course, very cunning Jesuits, locking you up for other people, but not locking themselves up, and of course, forgetting to make sure the media, which apparently they control everything, but the media, from constantly referring to their little pedophile gangs that have been running around for hundreds of years with varying degrees of success, depending on Pope at the time. Yeah, you got me. Of course, I'm being silly. That's not Pope Francis I just described. I was describing Patriarch Kirill of the Russian Orthodox Church, who was also widely known as a KGB agent of well renown, as was the former Patriarch and Metropolitan before him. You've gone silent. What happened? You're getting all horny and excited. Geez, he's going after the Jesuits. He's going after the Pope. All that tobacco taxes we knew it. All those alcohol personal fortunes, $30,000 watches. Oh, those Jesuits, Catholics. Wah! Only that's Patriarch Krill. Patriarch Krill, who, with a simple, this is pretty much just standard stuff, it's not in dispute. Real name Vladimir Mikhailovich Gundeev, came from St. Petersburg, just like Putin, have very similar upbringings, just like Putin, and were both ultimately employed by the KGB, just like Putin. I'm desperately looking for the footage where he's bragging to his friends, gentlemen, in Russian, of course, gentlemen, the plan to put a KGB agent in the Kremlin has succeeded. Giggle, giggle, giggle. That was famous footage. I can never find it. I had it on my computer. Um, I don't even know where to begin. Um, Putin gets back the day of the checker to celebrate the security services responsible for the murder of millions. They've got Stalin in marches. He's putting busts of Stalin back up, and don't be ashamed of our history. There's, of course, been a revisionist movement to rehabilitate Stalin as a nationalist hero. Um, Russian Patriarch was KGB spy. Yeah, it is the Guardian, and geez, they were always left wing, but now they've gone. Geez, I don't know where they are now. Anyway, you can go and see this stuff yourself. This is well known. These are matters that are notorious in the Russian Orthodox Church. I was warned off Putin in 2008 by the monks, just saying, Brendan, once KGB agent, always a KGB agent. The refusal of these people to apologize for their background, what they did to the ROKOR, the Russian Orthodox Church, outside Russia, what they did to them, which you don't know about, no one talks about. The infamous, this is all well, I'm not giving you anything that's not, no, there's a legal term called matters that are notorious. The judge, something might be raised, and the judge will go, gentlemen, ladies, I think we all understand that this matter is notorious. And everyone goes, yeah, the sun does rise in the east and set in the west. So there's no need to debate it. So anything I'm telling you here, it's not even a dispute. They'll laugh about it. If you go to a Russian Orthodox church, they're going, yeah, ooh, a little bit embarrassing. Of course, if it was the Pope, it'd be more than embarrassing. If it was Pope Francis, it would be, of course, be front page news, and you'd be going, we got him, we got him. Here's the infamous airbrushing of the $30,000 watch, Bruguette watch. They airbrushed it out. And his excuse was so pathetic. Oh, well, I get a lot of gifts, and, I just opened it up. I didn't know how much it was worth. And, oh, man, it was pathetic. We all know what it would happen if it was him. What would you say? Come on. I'm just trying to get some balance here. Apart from the ridiculous notion that the Jesuits run everything. Can you name me a Jesuit with their finger on the surveillance puzzle? The Jesuits that are running the high-tech industry? Could you name me one? We'll find one eventually. Spend a few days looking, will you? It's not about defending him, it's just about the fact that you know damn well if he was making money out of tobacco taxes, alcohol taxes, and wearing $30,000 watches with apartments in Moscow, and also getting 600,000 US dollar payouts because someone renovated below and dust fell on his valuable book collection. I'm just telling you things that are just well known, not in dispute about Kirill. Do you even know about this, or you Putin groupies? As his predecessor, another KGB agent. You got to understand the difference between the ROC, and the ROCOR, and what went on, including the final where they came together officially in 2007. And there was a lot of people who did not want it because the Patriarch and the Metropolitans then had not repented of their former KGB activities. It was allowed that because a lot of pressure, people were pressured to do stuff. So there was a lot of look, people just repent. We understand the situation. They refused to do it. Some refused to acknowledge it. And a lot in the Row Corps did not want to team back up with the Rock, which they considered just another Stalinist tool. Stalin realized after persecuting the church relentlessly and brutally and ruthlessly, all the way up to 1940, when he needed the church to rally the troops, then he decided the church would be a useful tool. And so it is with Putin. I let's read this. This stuff is notorious. I've known this for years. I've raised it a couple of times just in the hope that maybe people would look into it. Why Patriarch Kirill was called Tobacco Metropolitan. Now there were dozens of websites dedicated to this. There's like three or four now. Many Westerners know little about the new patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, Father Kirill. Many Russians know him as a great orator and a host of a weekly TV show, Pastor's World. However, very few know that Kirill Vladimir Gundeev, by passport, a billionaire and former KGB operative, well, billionaire, it's debatable, but yes, he definitely has a couple of apartments and other stuff, and it wouldn't surprise me, just like Putin. Made his fortune in tobacco, alcohol, and oil sales. His activities are among the main reasons why not-for-profits in Russia lost tax-deductible status. The new Orthodox leader is fond of playing with stocks, car racing, downhill skiing, and breeding exclusive kinds of dogs. He owns villas in Switzerland, true, and a penthouse with a view of the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour in Moscow, yes. And he got a $600,000 payout because his downstairs neighbour dusted his book collection. Remember, this guy was a cartographer or that before. He wasn't like born into the church. He was doing other things, and I'm sorry, my enthusiasm is a bit lacking, but it's just the steam train rolls on. The stuff I'm telling you about here is just notorious in the church, notorious. Okay, and I'd like to see you Jesuit hunters. Jesuits run everything, but we're not sure why the Pope can't keep his pedophile priests out of the news because don't the Jesuits run everything, including the media? Aren't the Jesuits running Israel? Do you quite see how your theories don't quite add up? Black Pope, Green Pope, you just won't say it, will you? You can't say Jewish power. It's very difficult for you, and we can debate. I prefer you just said rather than Jesuits, just say Freemasonry, secret societies, and Jewish power based in Kabbalah and Talmudism and Jewish racial and religious supremacism. I mean, we could talk for hours just teasing out the details. I'm just asking you to consider a few simple facts which are notorious. But a lot of you know nothing about this stuff. I was steeped in the traditions of the church. I was to train as a Russian Orthodox monastic at the Holy Transfiguration Monastery in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales. The abbot at the time was Father Alexis Rosenthal, the abbot of Jerusalem for many years. He's now the abbot, his father Serge, beautiful man. I was last there in 2008. It had never happened before. I was Catholic, uh, baptized, confirmed Catholic. I hadn't been to church, well, now for 30 years to Mass. There's reasons. what they did to my father and my father's family, one of 15 kids, part native Australian, Irish, blah, blah, blah. Um, and I hated the church just like everyone else. And I'm going to give you a few just to get it on the record, because in a couple of months I don't think I'll have a chance to put a lot of things on the record. We'll wait and see. Um, I was there, and Father Alex, I told him of my experiences, which I'm going to tell you about at the age of 22, what happened to me, 19 and 22. And he immediately knew what I was talking about, which tells me he's a holy man. He would hate you to say he's a holy man. He wouldn't like it. He'd tell you to shut up, basically. Big guy, big, deep, booming voice, big, long beard, long hair. I believe raised Jewish, but as you said, being Jewish is an attitude, nothing more. You can drop it whenever you feel like it, which is true. I agree. Of course, unless you're very specifically following the Jewish Old Testament, like the Karaites, different story, Passover, Seder, all that stuff. Um, and it was Father Alex that just mentioned in my enthusiasm for Putin, Brandon, very cautious of Putin. Once KGB, always KGB. That's all he said. Didn't temper my enthusiasm till much later. Late 2016, in fact. When I finally worked it out. Took me a while, with much badgering from a lot of different people. But the steam train rolls on. The Putin steam train rolls on. For those of you who don't know, you can watch previous videos which show clearly the collusion between Israel, China, and Russia on the Belt and Road, straight out of a Stalinist KGB planning strategy. We could talk about Anatoly Golitsyn and New Lies for Old. That's controversial in some sectors, but I say the proof is in the pudding, and Golitsyn was bang on about what was going to happen. And I'm just trying to get you to wake up to the fact that if I'd said the Pope had made huge amounts of money out of alcohol, tobacco, and oil sales, and wore $30,000 Swiss watches and had lame excuses and airbrushed them out of official photos, and then said, "Oh well, I get a lot of gifts, and people give me gifts, and sounds like Najib Razak, the former PM here. They all these gifts like crates of money they find in his apartments and things. Just some gifts. Oh, I just picked it up and just put it on. I didn't even know how much it was worth with his $600,000 book collection." We all know what you'd be saying. What would you be saying? You'd be just relishing it and foaming at the mouth with excitement, but you've got nothing to say about Putin and the patriarch. Putin and the patriarch. I want to show you a little bit of stuff from the not Metropolitan Laurus. I had a friend who was at the famous training grounds in New York for the Russian Orthodox Church. He left in disgust and went back to Catholicism. He was asked to spy on the other seminarians. We'll call him Mr. J. He told the stories. He hid under the car. They came in, large men in black turtlenecks, in big black limos, and dragged out the bishops and put them into mental institutions because they refused to sign up with the Russian Orthodox Church. They were the Rokor, and it was a big famous thing in the church, the reunification of the Rokor with the MP, the Moscow Patriarch. I'm going to show you briefly. Metropolitan Laris, English is his second language. He's not quite with it. He was having trouble following. That will bore you to tears, but I urge you to watch it. If you want a bit of history, this guy's different. Eminence, Metropolitan Laurus, Bishop Gabriel, the Rokor. Brother Nathaniel Kapner's interviewed him. He's absolutely pro-Putin to the hilt. But he makes some interesting statements here I want you to listen to. He makes some admissions. I'm not even sure what this interview is about. It sounds very legalistic, almost sounds like he's being interviewed by the FBI, because now with the state that, particularly Russia and Israel working together in the subversion of the United States and the high technology sector and all the spying going on, you're going to have to look at the Russian Orthodox Church within the United States, formerly the Rokor, the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia. You're going to have to look at it as a security risk. In much the same way as Catholics were seen as security risks because of the Vatican and allegiances to the Pope, though no one gives a shit about the Pope, to be perfectly frank. Not the grown-ups anyway. But I don't mind if I defend Pope Francis at all. It's simply because of the lack of objectivity. It's just like, oh, it's the Catholics, just go whip them because it's easy. But you're all little gutless cowards when it comes to Jewish power, and suddenly your little sphincter's tightened up and your balls have gone back into the body cavity and you're urinating down your leg. Let's get the Catholics, because that's easy, because they run everything, except they can't keep themselves out of the media. And Israel's got nukes aimed at Rome. They still haven't forgotten 70 AD. Let's have a quick listen to Bishop Gabriel, who's now he's pretty high up now.
You're asking for an opinion on a future event.
As a member of the Synod of Bishops, will this condition be restored? Is that yes or no?
I would like to think that...
Not I would like to think. Yes or no?
Well, if you allow me to elaborate or give my opinion...
No, I'd rather just have a yes or no.
Well, I would...
Objection.
I can only comment by saying that I believe that we hope that in time that we've seen a lot of improvement in the life, the ecclesiastical life in Russia since the time that the church was granted the freedoms, and it's improving, day by day, and so we would like to think that this is the ultimate, that at some point in the future, near future, we'd like to believe that yes, normal ecclesiastical life will be restored.
Is that a yes? It is going to be restored at that point?
I hope so.
Is that a yes?
Well, I guess that would be a yes.
They're talking about the signing up 2007 between the Russian Orthodox Church, the Moscow Patriarch, which is the KGB or FSB, and Putin, with the ROKOR, the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia. A lot of martyrs there. Very worked closely with the various American intelligence agencies against the Soviet regime. We could talk for hours. Let's just keep listening.
You had indicated that the archives are in the Senate building about the size of this room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Is that a yes?
Yes.
And you said there are files on priests and there are files on different things.
He said there are files on priests. Is that correct? In the archives, he's talking about the allegations of the KGB infiltration of the church in Moscow.
Can you tell me what are in those archives in that room? What's kept there, other than the files on the priests?
Marriage certificates, baptismal certificates. What else? Minutes of the synod meetings, the council meetings, various documents, resolutions, so forth.
Where are the minutes kept? In a separate file cabinet?
Yeah.
Does it have its own file cabinet?
Yeah.
And the resolutions has its own file cabinet?
That's correct. Sometimes the resolutions will be in the same file as the minutes, because if there was part of a particular meeting, then they would have the resolutions as part of those files, those documents.
Okay. And what time frame do those documents? For what time period have those documents been kept? ROKOR had issued a anathema in 1983. What did that concern?
I believe that was in regards to communism.
Have you ever read that anathema?
Yeah.
They're talking about humanism or scientific rationalism, which is scientific socialism, which is Marxism, which is communism, secular humanism. Heard of it before? I do believe the Bolsheviks were fond of it, so was Karl Marx. But anyway, it's called communitarianism now. Communitarianism. So you're going to get Israel, or is that the Jesuits, bringing us smart cities, the Internet of Things, backdoored everything, Intel processors, AMD, working with China, all that stuff. So they're bringing the smart cities in. Robots and drones to keep us in line. Or the race-specific weapons or DNA-specific weapons, God knows what they've got. Vaccinations and so on, and sterility and death. And, of course, you've got to have an ideology to go along with that, don't you? So they're going to have the synthesis of capitalism and communism, which will be communitarianism. I'd never heard of that till Nick Spiro raised. I had actually heard of it, but never clicked. When Nick Spiro told me about it, Lark from Texas, Nikki Rapana. I mean, there's got to be proper videos done on this. I just don't have the energy, man, but it's vital because it's the third link in the whole thing. Because they're going to tell you that a Catholic Jesuit is giving you that information. Amatai Etzioni, I've forgotten his real name. He's an Italian. Or is he German? I think he's German, a German Jew. He served in the Israeli Defense Force Special Forces, but now he's a Catholic. So now, of course, he's a Jesuit. It's just another Georgetown University in the US. He's claimed to be part of the mega group that was handling Pollard and other spies, with Sheldon Adelson and Lauder and Bronfman and, God, the list goes on. and the Mercers and all the rest that are sponsoring Trump and Alex Jones and Steve Bannon. Um, so of course, so we've got alleged Jews anyway, Russians or wherever, Soviet Israel giving us all this high technology, with China manufacturing, which is ostensibly a communist state. Some call it the soprano state, just an organized crime state. Well, you could say the same about Russia. And let's face it, America's probably only a couple of 2 to 3 degrees away from a crime state. But at least there's a degree of separation between the organized crime and the politicians. You know, not much of a degree, but a degree in Russia and in China. I mean, it's just organized crime in suits. But so now we've got Amitai Etzioni bringing us the communitarian values out of Georgetown University, ostensibly a Catholic, but I do believe he's a German Jew who converted to Catholicism and served in the Israeli Defense Force. So they've got all the bases covered. You'll see it unfold. I wish I could do more in the time I have, but let's carry on. Now, if he looks nervous, people say he doesn't like being asked the questions and he's pro-Putin, and he is very pro-Putin now. The bishop here is, and he's had interviews with Brother Nathaniel Kapner, who Kapner totally avoids the issues we've raised. We've sent him material. He's not interested. He's never going to tell you about Putin's extremely close relationship with Netanyahu. Brother Nathaniel Kapner is never going to tell you the F-35s are just flying around bombing the crap out of Iran, and but Putin's going to save us. I expect soon Putin's going to have to throw a bone, so maybe they'll get an old 1972 F-16 and sort of film blowing it up. Someone will have a phone camera and catch the F-16 getting hit. They go, see, we told you Putin was going to sort out. I mean, it's just got to the point of driveling ridiculousness about the whole issue. So I just feel like I just give up. It's a steam train that can't be stopped. But you're seeing these things unfold, and Brother Nathaniel Kapner's done diddly, all right? He's now in the realm of lying, all right? He's now lying. It's not just mistaken or being silly or twisting himself back up his backside. It's outright lying. And unfortunately, the bishop has gone that way too. He seems to be convinced, as he's a very close friend of mine. He loves Putin. I don't love Putin anymore. I see Putin for what he is, like he's made of glass. And I'll talk about that later. That doesn't mean I have a love of freaking Hillary Clinton or anyone else for that matter. I'm just saying what's obvious right now. You work with Netanyahu, you're no friend of anybody's. And I don't care who it is. The bishop here is uncomfortable because he's worried about getting a piece of polonium shoved up his backside by an umbrella. For those of you who aren't old enough to read some, at least watch a spy movie or read a spy novel or read a book or go to Wikipedia, you could read all about the Russian Soviet era love of assassination, especially as cruelly, particularly with poisons, the king of poisons. They love poisons. I believe they did poison Skripal, whatever his name is. Anyhow, that's what they do. They wouldn't think twice. They just laugh at the UK. Particularly with this close relationship with Netanyahu now. Can't you see? They're laughing at you. But the bishop here is nervous. I believe he's nervous because, and he's measured in his tone. Well, yes, there are allegations, they're KGB, but we're hoping things are changing and we're hoping it's sincere. I don't believe it's sincere. Not one bit. It's just another little Stalinist power broker in the KGB, FSB, who's using the church to control. That's all.
In 1983, when that was issued, did that strike that? Did that anathema ever get reaffirmed?
So what he's talking about at the height of the power of the Rocor, at the height of the power of the Rocor. What this interviewer is alleging is that the church is infiltrated, isn't it, by the KGB. And the bishop's a little cagey about it, and I don't believe he's trying to be deceptive. He's just being very cautious. He knows Vladimir Putin's bad habits, all right, and the Russian Jewish oligarchs, and Israel and the rest of it. But that anathema was out and out against the ecumenical churches, the World Council of Churches, absolutely calling them out, all right, as frauds. Now listen to these responses.
I don't recall whether it was or not.
Did you ever sign any document reaffirming that anathema?
Not that I can recall now.
Was there ever a synod meeting reaffirming that anathema?
There may have been, but not that I can recall. It may have been before I became a bishop.
In the past, when you became a bishop, I forget,
1996.
96. So it's your testimony right now that between 1996 and 2007, there was no reaffirming of that anathema?
Not that I can recall, no.
at any meeting?
Not that I can recall.
The anathema, as you describe it, against ecumenism, what would that preclude?
The one that was issued in '83, you mean?
Yes.
That would probably, well, it really talked about ecumenism as something that the Orthodox Church felt it could not take part in.
Okay. And part of that is saying that ROCOR could not partake in ecumenism.
The way we knew it in 1983, yes, exactly.
Okay, well, what's changed between the way you knew it in 1983?
Well, probably very little.
Can you articulate any of it? What's changed?
Well, I know that some Orthodox churches have seceded from the World Council of Churches, so that's changed.
Which Orthodox churches have?
I believe the Church of Georgia, the Orthodox Church of Georgia. I'm not sure. I know there's one or two others that may have, but I don't recall which one.
Is the Moscow Patriarchate presently a member of the World Council of Churches?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is the World Council of Churches an ecumenical?
Did you hear what he just said? No, I'm just trying to get across. You got a lot to say about this guy, don't ya? Don't ya? Oh, the Jesuits! Getting all hard. You're getting hard. Oh, but not Pooty. Not Pooty. Oh no! Don't talk about Pooty and his friends. They're still in the World Council of Churches. They're chatting very happily with Pope Francis. They met in Cuba. We're talking about agriculture and all their friends over there. The large Russian Orthodox community in Cuba. It's full of Russians. And guess who else? Rafi Itan. The Mossad with his agriculture and chemical company. Doing very well off that American tech he helped steal hand over fist. Go and watch it yourself. It's on Lone Gunman. See it there. Interview with His Eminence Metropolitan Laris, Bishop Gabriel ROCOR, Part 3. Let's go get Part 2 where... Okay, where are you? Come on now. We're going to go to Part 2. This better be Part 2. This is where he talks about KGB and spies. We're going to end this pretty quick and I'm going to make a Part 2. I'm just trying to stimulate debate. I'm just trying to stimulate debate amongst my friends who come to this channel and a few enemies. Just trying to stimulate debate. I'm asking you to think. It's not that I approve of the Pope. You know, to be honest, I haven't looked up half the stuff about Pope Francis. I don't even fucking care. I tried to go back to church for the first time here about a year ago. I couldn't even get in because I was wearing shorts. Long, smart shorts with a button-up shirt. Couldn't get in. Could walk straight into the mosque, and I did. Had an awesome time. Went up to the Islamic college, hung out with a few people I met. But couldn't get into my own Catholic church. Let's carry on. Just listen up. We're going to end this in about 5 minutes. I don't want this to run over 25 minutes. It's going to talk now about, just listen for a few minutes. We'll find it.
Now, you had indicated previously that in 1980, the Moscow Patriarchate had some kind of association with the, I believe you indicated earlier, with the communist government or communist authorities.
That's correct.
Okay. What was that association?
Well, in our belief, it was just a collaboration with the government.
Okay. And how did you...
See, this guy knows his history. This guy is a fluent Russian speaker. He's Russian heritage. Oh, well, you know. Well, it's just, just sort of collaborating with the government. Stalin ran it. He ran it right through to Khrushchev, Brezhnev, Mikhail Gorbachev. There's Yuri Andropov, which is the spiritual father of Putin. I'm trying to stimulate debate.
On what do you base that belief?
Well, the fact that the communist government was all bodies, all organizations existing in the Soviet Union were subject to the higher authority, that is the communist authority, and that would include the church.
Okay. Was the church essentially an arm of the communist government?
It may have been.
Some people say he's being deceptive. He's not. He's nervous. He doesn't want Putin to put a stick of plutonium up his backside.
Would you say it was?
Well, yeah, one has to define what you mean by arm of the Soviet government.
God, he's sounding like a rabbi now, arguing Talmud here. Listen. Define terms, he's saying.
But when the Soviet government existed, who appointed the bishops? Was it the church or the government?
Oh, it would seem that the bishops appointed the bishops, but I'm sure that there was government control in that regard.
Okay.
I have to interrupt. Whoop. I just disappeared myself. Lord have mercy, where have I gone? Alright, for some reason the good Lord has decided I can't show my face. It's just completely disappeared. Listen. The church did not run itself. It was an arm of the KGB, now FSB. Let's carry on.
Does the present Moscow Patriarchate have any association with the Russian Federation?
I'm sure they do.
Okay. Do you know what the essence of that association is?
The essence, I'm not sure what the essence is at the present time.
Do you know if it's any different than it was prior to 1992?
Certainly, it's different.
Okay. In what manner?
Well, prior to 1992 or even earlier.
Let me tell you a story about 1992. My friend was over there at the time of this coming down, and he didn't have a very good experience. He was there for a year in Moscow. And even then, his friends were still people were getting murdered. Christians were getting murdered in alleyways right into the early 1990s. If they're belonging to home churches, they would have to move around for 2 to 3 hours just to lose their tails. It's how vicious this little society was against Christianity. That is the Antichrist. There is no more Antichrist government that ever existed than the Soviet government, ever. And I think it's got good qualifications for the wound. The head of the beast, it was if wounded unto death, but it came alive again. That's Soviet Russia, people. That's what it is.
Prior to 1980, the church was very much, like I said, subject to the authority of the communist government, which was an atheistic government, which obviously meant that they could in no...
No, it wasn't just atheistic. They would stick you in a gulag for 10 years for having an icon of Jesus and Mary. They murdered, I can't remember the exact numbers, it was 20 or 40,000 monks, nuns and priests. Slaughtered them, tortured them, beat them to death, caved their skulls in, burnt down churches. Some, they were nice, they turned them into libraries, others into pig pens. Being very kind, Bishop, friend of Brother Nathaniel Kapner.
Way be supportive of anything the church did or could have done. That was no longer the case after 1991.
How did that change?
Well, obviously through the freedoms that were granted to the church and generally to the people.
Oh, the freedoms, yeah. They got the freedom to eat, that was good, at a house after the horrors of 92, yeah.
Moscow Patriarchate, prior to 1992, did it have churches in more than Russia? Other countries?
Yes.
Okay. What other countries, do you know?
Well, they were scattered all throughout Europe. They have parishes in this country, in South America, in Canada.
Okay. The Moscow Patriarchate presently, does it have parishes in... Now, have you ever heard that the Patriarchate was involved with the government prior to 1990, the communist government?
Be more specific, what do you mean by involved?
Oh, where's Bombard's body language when you need it? Just answer the freaking question, Bishop.
Was he a member of the KGB?
Was the Patriarch a member of KGB?
Yes.
There were rumors to that regard, but and I believe
He's talking about the one before Patriarch Kirill, but they both are.
that there are documents, some documents there in existence, asserting so.
Do you have discussions concerning that issue with regard to these talks about the merger?
Sure.
Okay. What were those discussions?
Well, in particular about the patriarch's membership.
Yes.
Specifically, I don't recall conversations about that particular aspect, but certainly just in general.
In general, concerning what?
Concerning possible ties to that organization.
When was this discussed?
Well, I can't say offhand. It could have been discussed just at any number of meetings.
Okay. These were official meetings?
I don't recall whether it was at a synod meeting or just in conversations, friendly conversations.
Was the prior status of the Patriarch of Moscow ever discussed at a synod meeting where minutes were taken?
I don't recall.
You had indicated that you had discussed these issues. Who had you discussed them with?
They were discussed just between amongst the bishops.
What bishops?
Well, the bishops that comprise the synod and also the council of bishops.
Can you name the bishops that you remember discussing this with?
And on it goes, but you get the general idea. I'm trying to stimulate debate and ask yourself, and sorry, my head's disappeared. I don't even know where it went. I'm trying to stimulate debate on why it is people appear to be completely incapable of asking how it is his predecessor and him are clear, strong indications they're KGB agents, which was standard for the time. You become a KGB officer, you could go into the church, you could go into government, you can go into the field, you go into different places. It doesn't necessarily make him evil, it just means he worked for the Soviet government and was a former KGB agent. Is he former? And then you also have another KGB agent over here called Vladimir Putin. They both come from St. Petersburg, one of the corrupt little shitholes of Russia. Do you see any patterns forming here? Any patterns at all? Stalin's use of the church when he realized that he needed it as a powerful tool to motivate the public. Is there any difference between, this new age Stalin here, Mr. Putin? He had a lot of us conned. I'm asking to stimulate debate. If I told you this guy was collecting tobacco taxes, alcohol taxes, oil taxes, and had 2 luxury apartments, one in Switzerland, one in Moscow on the river, $600,000 book collections, $30,000 fucking watches, what would you say? We know what you'd say. But when it comes to this guy and this guy, you got nothing to say. Do you? Not a freaking word. It's mum. I'm going to wind this up. You need Anatoly Golitsyn. The proof is in the pudding. He told what was going to happen. It would come alive again. It would pretend to collapse and then burst up again. It's infiltrated the United States. It's run in Israel. I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say anymore. It's just in people's faces. If you're new to this subject, please go here. Go to my Brendan O'Connell. Brendon O'Connell, O''CONNELL. Videos, sorry, not videos. Go to playlists, easiest way. Watch them all. Watch them all. Watch liked videos. Israel arming enemies of the United States. Here's the full playlist, and you've also got. Well, I'm going to do a whole thing on Yuri Bezmenov. We've got to get this stuff back into the mainstream. Even the New York Times is quoting Bezmenov, for crying out loud. Israel arming enemies of the US, USA, stealing technology, costing jobs. Watch Israeli drones worldwide. Israel's secret weapon, the Talpiot program. Bibi's got a kill switch, no one is safe. How deep is Israeli penetration? Go and watch those videos and you will understand what I'm talking about. And you will string together who these people are. You will ask yourself why it is you've never heard. There's just no debate going on about big debates within the church that have been happening for a long time between the ROC, the Russian Orthodox Church, and the ROCOR. Please understand, I was ready to be fully immersed and baptized and become a monastic. That's not a small thing when you're a Catholic. Father Alex was going to allow me to stay over Great Lent. That never happens. It never happens. As it was, he said he had to pray on it. I stayed a weekend, and then he got us to leave, me and another Serbian guy, all right? These are things, trust me, it doesn't happen. I'm a Catholic, for God's sake. And I could tell you the last sermon I heard from Father Alex about Rabbinic Pharisaic Judaism too. This is 2008. Same time I was interviewed by police about Leon Wen, the Collins class sub, and I will show you how the NSA named a piece of malware called Irate Monk. Ha ha! You getting it yet? After me, which was due to persistence techniques of how to store your malware on different parts of the computer, because I was very good at sending Defense Signal Directorate nasty emails saying, haha, caught you again. I've re-imaged the operating software around 2008 when all this happened, when they made the malware, Irate Monk. A lot of things to tell. Let's leave it there. I'm trying to stimulate debate. In the next part, I'm going to talk to you about my personal experiences and what I believe is going to happen. Have a great day.